Right, guys, let's start with the obvious fact. You've all probably seen a bunch of YouTube videos with titles like Nintendo is cooked, Nintendo is totally cooked, Nintendo stock is down dramatically. Wait, why is Arlo here? Yo, why is Arlo? I got to speak to my editor on this. Do you know why Arlo's? No. Okay, cool. Basically, people are freaking out around Nintendo's stock price, and I'm gonna talk about this. Why it's not a big deal in this video. Why I think the stock is crashing, and why everyone needs to calm down, cool it, don't worry too much. It's not that serious. It's not that deep, guys. All right. So let's get into it. Let's start with the obvious fact, right? The rising memory costs. Due to the huge, investment that you have all these like tech companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, and a bunch of other tech companies that I don't like because they keep investing in AI and shoving AI down everyone's throats. Because they're investing billions and billions and billions and billions into AI and buying up all the RAM memory storage and obviously all the chips and all computer chips to make obviously their AI data centers and stuff, which by the way are terrible for the environment. There's a rising increase for prices of RAM memory. Now Nintendo, whilst they are a strong company, they are worth over $100 billion. That is obviously a concern that obviously Nintendo will obviously have to pay higher prices to get the RAM memory to create the Switch 2 and Switch 1s and all their other, things such as well as like physical game cards and stuff. And that is a concern for investors, and that is why the stock is crashing so dramatically. Let's also look at the quarterly financials. We've not seen the financials for, from October to January yet. So we haven't seen those numbers. We won't see those numbers, I think, till like February, which means obviously we won't see the sales for Black Friday, which people keep saying that Nintendo had a weak Black Friday, although I've not actually seen anything that confirms that information, because obviously Nintendo's not come out with the financials of Black Friday saying, oh yeah, Black Friday we sold like one Switch 2, And all I'm seeing in the press is like news like Nintendo's like outselling themselves. They're the best selling console in Japan, fastest selling console in Japan, outsold any other Nintendo system within the first 3 months of being on market. The Switch 2 is a success. A lot of people are talking about Switch 2 being a failure and saying about how it's a bad, system, whatever. It's largely people just, it's largely people, being mad that it's successful and that the boycotts didn't work and stuff. But also because obviously the high prices that the people are paying for the Switch 2. We also got to factor in Nintendo's not actually raised the price of Switch 2 yet. And I feel like they're reserving that as being like, a last resort sort of situation, because obviously the price of RAM memory, that's going to keep going up. Because, like I said, Microsoft, Nvidia, and all these other tech companies keep buying it all up for AI investment. Likewise, as well, investors and stock market, you can never always really determine how well a company is doing based on the stock price. In August, they hit an all-time high. That is why the stock price is sort of slid, because obviously what kind of tends to happen with stocks is there's an all-time peak, and then obviously there's a gradual decline, and obviously there's peaks and valleys after. If stock goes up, stock goes down. And eventually you have a new all-time high. Or the stock will crash completely, and no one will buy it and it'll go bankrupt. But Nintendo is nowhere near bankruptcy. Nintendo obviously has one of the strongest IP libraries of obviously any company in the world. They obviously have a strong dedicated fan base as well. And as we all know, the Switch 2 has already sold over 10 million units. With Mario Kart World itself, which, by the way, people hate Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World is not the best Mario Kart game by a long shot, right? That game still has sold over 9.5 million copies. It's $80 game. People were getting mad, it's $80. But people paid for it. And now people will argue, yes, there was a bundle with Mario Kart World for the Switch 2. But if you bought the bundle, and yes, you saved some money by buying the bundle, you still bought Mario Kart World, and that's still money in Nintendo's pocket. So really, you didn't really do much besides save yourself a few bucks, which it still works. I mean, I'm not judging anyone for that sort of stuff. But that's the thing. Investors, when it comes to companies like Nintendo, and media and entertainment companies in general, tend to be a lot more sale happy. They expect certain results. Because if you look at the results for September for Nintendo, this is the quarterly earnings I'm putting on screen here. Are their earnings up to 2025, September 30th, 2025. Obviously, that's June, August, July, and obviously a full month of September. Yeah, the percentages of their revenue and stuff is up massively. You're seeing, if you look at the stats, the lowest percentage that's up is by 90%. All of it is green. One of them is over 200%. I actually think both of them two of them are over, 200%, which is quite impressive. For a company that everyone says is dying and is becoming irrelevant and, no one cares about, and, yes, they are being a bit greedy by charging gamers what they're charging for, like, you know, the Mario Kart World and some of their other games. But realistically, it's not that deep. If you don't like it, don't buy it. That's the argument here. And people have also pointed out that there could be obviously another reason the stock price is down is due to skepticism around Nintendo's lineup, because obviously in 2025 they had quite a strong lineup. Obviously, you had Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, you had obviously Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, you had obviously Mario Kart World, but also a lot of the smaller games sort of got a chance to shine. You know, Kirby Air Riders, Metro Prime 4. You know, these weren't like major franchises. These are more so second tier franchise. Same with Donkey Kong Bonanza, second tier sort of titles for Nintendo. You know, there wasn't a new big 3D Mario, there wasn't a new Smash Bros, there wasn't really a brand new Zelda. Well, there was a Hyrule Warriors game, but they don't sell as well as mainline Zelda games. And really, that was where the skepticism came from. Same Pokemon Legends EA, that's a spin-off. It sold really well, but like once again, it's a Switch and Switch 2 Pokemon game. It was a dual release, similar with Metro Prime 4, released on Switch 1 and Switch 2. So the sales there, obviously, are going to be inflated because obviously most people didn't upgrade to buy those games. They were available to them either way. But realistically, you got to look at the stats. You know, there's not really been a lineup unveiled for 2026 yet. There's not been a direct to really showcase what Nintendo is going to come out swinging with in 2026. You know, we know that there's supposed to be a new Tomodachi Life. We know there's supposed to be a new Rhythm Haven, and I believe there's also supposed to be a new Fire Emblem. But obviously, we have no new word on new Zeldas, new Smash Bros, nothing like that. We also know that there's going to be an Animal Crossing Switch 2 version, which, yay, who doesn't love Switch 2 versions? I mean, obviously, we're all going to go and buy 10 versions of the Switch 2 version because we all want to, you know, give all our money, you know, all of our cash to Nintendo, innit? Like, obviously, you know, I don't have like a family to feed or anything, you know. But all jokes aside, realistically, a lot of the skepticism that obviously comes from the lineup of obviously the games not being as strong as it usually would be, even though the games are selling really well. You know, we're not seeing 3D Mario. The only Mario, and, you know, a lot of the Switch 2 versions have sold fairly well from what we can garner. But, you know, there's just Switch 2 versions and not really much besides an upgrade pack for, you know, a Switch 1 game. And likewise as well, the AI, all the investment in AI has obviously basically stripped all of the RAM chips from being able to be bought for a fair, you know, market value, because obviously now the market is insanely expensive for these items. And yes, while there is skepticism around the Switch 2 price and the price of games like Mario Kart World, that game has still sold really well, and the Switch 2 is still selling really well. So realistically, a lot of the people who are like, oh, the stock price is crashing. Yeah, stocks just like tend to, you know, peak and valley. They tend to go up and down. That's sort of the whole thing with stocks. You make a bet and you hope your bet is right. You know, the stock market is like the most legal form of gambling, because if you bet right, you will make billions or millions or whatever you make. If you bet wrong, you go bankrupt. You know, like using the stock market as like a good example as to whether or not a company is struggling or not isn't the best way to do it. You look at the financials, look at the revenue they've made, look at the sales they've made, look at how popular the company or the brand is with its consumers. And, well, yeah, Nintendo fans are sort of well known for hating Nintendo. People still buy their products and their games. Like, it's not that deep. And people who are making all this, oh, Nintendo is cooked, Nintendo is, you know, they're crashing, they're going bankrupt, they're whatever. You know, these people tend to be using it for clickbait attention, to try and get attention from, obviously, viewers who agree with them, or, you know, will mass comment on their videos going, oh, you're wrong, whatever. And it's just a way to build engagement for a lot of these creators, because obviously they have no personalities and they just have to hate Nintendo to get the views, because otherwise no one watches. That's the problem when you know, no one watches your videos. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that Nintendo is cooked? I don't think they are, based on obviously what I've shown and what I've known, because obviously I do some investing in my spare time. A lot of my investments are in stuff like REITs, which is real estate investment trusts, which is companies that buy and sell real estate, which is obviously I buy like supermarket ones and stuff, so I don't buy any like commercial things. So I sort of understand this a little bit more than Arlo would. I no ill will towards Arlo. I get what he's doing, but he made a 25-minute video where he didn't seem to know what he was talking about for it. So no hard feelings, Arlo, but I'm not watching your content, bro. But let's, you know, if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you need to make sure you subscribe, like, and all that sort of stuff. And I've been EC, and I'm signing out. Peace.